that many queens were there, and he was present with each queen personally in that many palaces. And Krishna was the different expansion. Krishna, how he expanded into different forms. So his very first expansion was Balram, and then Balram in further he was expanded into Vasudev, Sankarshan, Pradyuman, and Anirudh. So in Ramayana Kal, Vasudev was Ram, Sankarshan was Lakshman, Pradyuman was Bharat, and Anirudh was Shatrughna. And then further Sankarshan was expanded into Narayan form, and Narayan further expanded into again Vasudev, Sankarshan, Pradyuman, and Anirudh, which Vasudev basically represents soul, Sankarshan represents ego, Pradyuman represents mind, and Anirudh represents intelligence. Again, Sankarshan was expanded into Mahavishnu, and Mahavishnu to Garbhodakshay Vishnu, and then from Garbhodakshay Vishnu to Shirodakshay Vishnu. And all this Mahavishnu, Garbhodakshay Vishnu, and Shirodakshay Vishnu are Purusha avatar of Krishna. And further from Shirodakshay Vishnu, we see Leela avatar. So there are different avatars from Shirodakshay Vishnu. So there are 25 Leela avatar of God. There are 3 Guna avatar, Vishnu, Brahma, and Shiva. Avesh avatar, Yuga avatar, and Manvanta avatar. Avesh avatar further is expanded into 2 categories, like one who is godly empowerment, like Lord Kapil, Lord Rishabh. Those are like godly empowerment, Avesh avatar. And the other is potency. And potency, like under Avesh avatar, under the category of potency, Narad Muni, Brahma, 4 Kumaras, Anantadev, and Parshuram comes. And then in the Yuga avatar, so during the Yuga avatar, the form of self-realizations were different. So during Satyuga, there used to be Hamsas. So we hear like he was Paramhamsa. So through meditation practice, they used to achieve self-realization. In the Treta Yuga, the means of self-realization was fire sacrifice, Yagna Sanskriti. Dwapar Yuga, there was deity worship. And Kal Yuga, Chaitanya Sri Mahaprabhu, Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared, and he gave the self-realization method as Sankirtan, Nam Sankirtan. And there are, when we talk about qualities of Krishna, Krishna has 64 qualities, Vishnu has 60 qualities, Shivji has 55, and Brahma has 50 qualities. So living souls emanates from Brahma. So living souls can also partially have 50 qualities. But that's why Krishna is Bhagwan. He has all 64 qualities. And the Praman, the proof that he has Bhagwan is in Canto 1, Chapter 3, verse number 28, where it is mentioned Krishna's to Bhagwan Swayam. And and in the same Canto 1, Chapter 3, if you're more interested, all the different avatars and description are there. Before verse 28, all the avatars of the gods are mentioned. And then it concludes in the verse number 28 that still there are this many forms, but Krishna is the Bhagwan. All are like his energies. And so, yeah, those were my notes from, just wanted to share that. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing. Very informative. Vasudev, Sankarshan, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha, right? So, Pradyumna represents the mind. What represents the ego? Sankarshan.
Yes, Prabhuji, Sankarshan represents
Vasudev represents what?
Pradyuman represents mind, and Anirudh represents intelligence.
And Vasudev represents
Soul.
soul. So soul, mind, intelligence, and ego. Okay. Thank you. Anything else? Yeah.
Yes, Prabhu. We memorize the verse. I can recite. नाम श्रेष्ठम् अनुमपि सचिपुत्रमत्रा स्वरूपं रूपं तस्याग्रजम् उरुपुरीं माथुरीं गोष्ठवातिं राधाकुण्डं गिरिवरम् अहो राधिका माधवाशां प्राप्तो यस्य प्रतितः कृपया श्रीगुरुं तं नतोऽस्मि. So here Raghunath Das Goswami is saying, I bow down to the beautiful lotus feet of my spiritual master, by whose causeless mercy I have obtained Nam, the supreme holy name, the divine mantra, and the service of son of Sachi Devi, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the association of Sri Swarup Damodar Goswami, Sri Rupa Goswami, and his elder brother, Sri Sanatan Goswami, and the supreme abode of Mathura, Sri Vrindavan Dham, Radha Kund, Giri Govardhan, and the desire within my heart to serve for the loving service of Sri Radhika and Madhav in Vrindavan. Thank you, Prabhuji.
I'll say one verse. प्रेमेरा स्वभाव यहाँ प्रेमेरा संबंध शेई माने कृष्ण मोरा नहीं प्रेम गंध. So whenever there is a relationship of love of Godhead, its natural symptom is that the devotee doesn't think himself a devotee and he feels that he has not even a drop of love of Godhead. Did I say that right?
Yes, Prabhuji.
So the advanced, yeah.
Go ahead.
No,
Go ahead, please.
no, I was saying the advanced devotees feel like that because they are very humble and they feel I am not doing any service, I don't have any love of God. Although they have so much love of God, but they feel like they don't have any drop of love of God. From our point of view, yeah. So
I am the most fallen.
Most fallen.
Patit. And Krishna is Patit Pavan. So he should give first mercy to me because I am the most fallen. That's one of the Narottam Das Thakur songs, right?
Yes. Okay, we can take one song which we sing in the temple. Which one we want to take to memorize? I mean, there are many songs, but first let's take some songs. Everybody knows some songs that are sung in the temple, or should we take
Guru Puja maybe?
Guru Puja?
Guru Charan.
Then we can take Yashomati Nandan also. Shri Guru Charana Padma. I mean, I don't have to tell because I think you already know just the sequence you have to know. But let me share my screen.
Take even Chaitanya, Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, that one song Prabhuji about Chaitanya.
Daya Karo More, they sing in Mayapur. Yeah. So this is also Guru, like Guru Ashtakam. This is also prayer to Prabhupada. This is sung at 7 o'clock or so. That one is sung in Manglarti. That one is by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. This is by Narottam Das Thakur. So it is part of his book Prema Bhakti Chandrika. Now Narottam Das Thakur is writing in the song about Lokanath Goswami. That's why, because Lokanath Goswami was his spiritual master. You know the story? Anybody knows how Lokanath Goswami initiated Narottam Das Thakur? Somebody would like to describe that story? What happened in brief? Because everybody may not know. Yeah.
I know a little bit of it. I may not have the full spectrum. Can I share, Prabhu?
Go ahead. Yes, bro.
Yeah. So So Narottam Das Thakur used to, Loknath Goswami, he lived in Vrindavan. He did his bhajan, and um, I don't remember who asked Narottam Das Thakur to take shelter of Loknath Goswami, or was he just observing him, and he was drawn towards his intense devotion. I don't remember that part, but he used to go to the place where um, Loknath Goswami used to like clean himself up, like perform his hygiene activities, pass stool, and like clean himself up. So, and every morning, I mean, he approached, so Narottam Das Thakur did approach Loknath Goswami a few times, but out of his humility, he said, "No, I don't take disciples, so I cannot be your guru." But Narottam Das was intensely attracted to him, and he just wanted to be his spiritual master, but he wouldn't accept. So he started like looking for ways to serve him, and that's when he began like visiting that place where he would clean himself up. And then Narottam Das Thakur would actually go after him and clean the place every morning after he had passed stool, and make it like fragrant, so that the next day when he came, he wouldn't have to like he wouldn't actually have to um, use a place that was like not clean, and it was like maybe like smelly. So he would clean up after him. And then one time, I believe Loknath Goswami began wondering that what is happening. I don't clean up the way like I leave the place in one way, and the next morning it's always smelling so fresh and it's so fragrant even. I don't know who's doing it. So he hides himself, and he realizes that Loknath Goswami Narottam Das Thakur is doing that. He's cleaning after him, and he's doing that every day. So that sort of like softens his heart and makes him feel very sort of like he just realizes that how much love Narottam Das Thakur has for him, and then eventually he accepts him as his disciple. So that is all I know, but I believe there is some more substance to it which I may have missed.
No, that's the gist of it. What you said, that's
Just a-
okay. So
Coincidentally, this is the song which like yesterday I was meditating on this song, like the words like she guru, especially that second paragraph, Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Chitete Koribo Akya, and it's interesting that you brought this up today because this is one of my favorite songs as well. So,
Okay.
anyways,
Yeah.
go ahead, Rohit.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Anybody like to sing and explain? Like maybe you can take two lines and then or 4 lines and explain the meaning, and somebody like to do that and tell us the tune. And
I can sing
Hmm.
first. Shri Guru Charana Padma Keval Bhakati Sadma Bandho Mui Savadhana Mate Jahara Prasade Bhai E Bhavatariya Jai Krishna Prapti Hoy Jaha Hoite Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Chitete Koriya Kya Aur na kori ho mani asha Shri Guru Charane Rati এই ऐसे उत्तमा गति जे प्रसादे पूरे सर्व आशा चक्षुदान दिलो जय जन्मे जन्मे प्रभु से दिव्य ज्ञान हृदय प्रकाशित प्रेमा भक्ति जहाँ होते अविद्या विनाश जाते वेदे गाय जहाँ चरित श्री गुरु करुणा सिंधु अधम जनारा बंधु लोकनाथ लोकेरा जीवाना हा हा प्रभु करो दया देह मोरे पद छाया एबे जाश कुशुक त्रिभुवाना शिला प्रभुपाद पतित पवाना शिला गुरुदेव लोयलो शराना जय प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा.
Thank you. It's nice. There is more verses, but we sing the first four only usually in the temple. Okay, so we can see what is the word for word, and you can explain. Maybe.
I can try. So, Shri Guru Charana Padma Keval Bhakti Sadma. The lotus feet of the spiritual master is the only way, Keval, the only way we can attain bhakti. Bando Mui Savadhana Mate. Savadhan. So we should offer, we should bow down to the lotus feet, and we should practice bhakti with the Savadhan, meaning carefully practice bhakti. Jahara prasade bhai e bhavatoriya jai. Whoever attains the mercy of the spiritual master can cross over the Bhavasagar, the ocean of material existence. Krishna prapti hoy jaha hoite, and can attain Krishna's mercy. Guru mukha padma vakya chitete koriya akya. My only wish is that the words of the spiritual master, I'm able to hear the words of them.
Yeah, I'll make them one with my conscious. Aikya means one, and Chitta means consciousness. So I want to make whatever.
The words of spiritual master and make them one with my consciousness. Or na koriho mone asha. I don't have any other desire. Shri Guru Charana Rati Aise Uttama Gati. Rati means attachment, the attachment to the lotus feet of the spiritual master. Through that we can attain the highest destination. Jai Prasade Pure Sarva Asha. His prasad means mercy, is my only desire, can fulfill my desires.
Yeah, all my desires will be fulfilled by his mercy. Yeah.
Chakshudan dilo je janme janme Prabhu se. He opened my eyes, and birth after birth. He is giving me this knowledge through which he opens my eyes, which is closed due to ignorance. Divya Gyan Hriday Prakashito, from my heart invoke the transcendental knowledge. Prema Bhakti Jahan Hoite Avidya Vinasha Jate. Wherever there is Prema Bhakti, there is no ignorance. All ignorance is destroyed. Vede Gai Jahara Charito, and all scriptures are singing his glories. Shri Guru Karuna Sindhu Adhama Janara Bandhu. Oh Shri Guru, you are ocean of mercy, and I am Adham, I am fallen. And you are Bandhu, you are my friend. Lokanath Loke Rajivana. Oh Lokanath Goswami, you are your fame is spread all over the world. Lokera. Something.
I think is the friend of Lokera Jivan. He's the life. Jivan is life of all the conditioned souls, like that. I mean, Lokanath is Lokanath Goswami is what it says. Yeah. Be merciful and give me the shade of you. That is afterwards, but yeah. Okay. Then.
Aha Prabhu karo daya deho more padachaya. So, oh Lokanath Goswami, please show mercy to me. and give me shelter at your lotus feet. Ebe Jash Gushuk Tribhuvan. Yeah, this means that your fame is spread all over the world.
Gushuk means spread and Yasha means fame. Tribhuvan, the three worlds. Okay, so these are the four. Any other comments? Any other thing?
I looked at the Ashtakalya Leela. You had asked me to summarize the different. So I looked at the Art of Chanting book by Mahanidhi Swami. Has nicely summarized different sections of Ashtakalya Leela. If you like to.
Yeah, if you want to share, you have a soft copy.
Yeah, yeah, I have the ebook.
You can share.
Okay.
I can
Yeah, I'm sure, Miss. Okay, Prabhu. You want to read? We can take turns.
We want to read all the prahars or
Or we can read 4 today. There are 8, I think.
okay.
4 tomorrow. So I can read one and then we can take turns. Nishant Leela Smaran. So this is from 3:36 to 6 a.m. And these also correspond to different what do you call it? Steps of bhakti. Shraddha, Sadhu Sangha, Bhajan, Kriya, Anartha, Nivritti. So this one is Shraddha, it says. By remembering the Kunja Bhanga Leela, when Radha Krishna give up their Nikunja Leela in the forest groves at the end of the night, one will relish the intimate pastimes of Radha and Krishna. The Govind Lilamrit states, at the end of the night, Vrinda Devi, fearing the rising sun, prompts the parrots and cuckoos to waken Radha Krishna from their sleep. Although the birds sing sweetly, their songs are not pleasing because they disrupt the blissful repose of Radha and Krishna. From a distance, the Sakhis watch the waking of the divine couple, who look very charming due to the deep love and affection they share at that time. Being suspicious of the voice of Kakati, an old she monkey, and desirous of continuing their loving embrace, Radha Krishna gazed longingly at each other. Reluctantly, the divine couple then separate and depart for their respective homes, where they quietly lay down on their beds. I worship Radha Krishna by meditating upon this pastime. By remembering this pastime and singing Krishna's names, you will attain the treasure of Krishna Prem and eternal residence in Raj Gokul. So basically, Radha and Krishna are tired at the end of the Ras Leela, and they're sleeping a bit in the groves of Vrindavan, and all the Sakhis and Vrinda Devi are trying to wake them up because sun has about to risen, and then Vrinda Devi uses monkey Kakati to tell that, oh, a lady is coming with a red sari, and she describes the sun in such a way that Krishna thinks it's Jatila who's coming, and as soon as he hears the word Jatila, then Krishna wakes up, and Radha and Krishna then it's described in detail how the Manjaris and Gopis are serving Radha and Krishna. They're bringing so many things to them, and then they move to their different respective houses, and then they lie down on the beds, and immediately Yashoda would come, or Jatila would come to wake up Radharani. Yashoda would come to wake up Krishna. You can read the next one.
Okay. Pratah Leela Smaran 6 to 8:36 a.m. Sadhu Sangha Bhajana Kriya Anartha Nivritti. Govinda Lilamrita states, I take shelter of Srimati Radharani. After finishing her ablutions and ornamenting her body, we'll go to the next page. Radharani receives Mother Yashoda's request to cook Krishna's breakfast. Radha and Radha and her girlfriends then go to Nandagram to prepare varieties of delicious foodstuffs for Krishna. Afterwards, Radharani joyfully takes Krishna's remnants. Often during this time, Radha meets Krishna at Gupta Kund or in the caves of Nandagram. I also take shelter of Krishna. After awakening from his bed early in the morning, Krishna walks to the Goshala to milk the cows. Then Krishna returns home, takes bath, and enjoys his meals in the company of his cowherd friends. Overwhelmed with love, chant the holy name in the association of devotees while remembering this pastime in the morning, 6 to 8:36 a.m. Then within a short time, Bhav will awaken. So, Radharani, after finishing her morning duties, then she is going to Nandagram to cook for Krishna because Yashoda has requested her to cook for Krishna because she knows about Radharani's benediction given by
Durvasa Muni.
Durvasa Muni.
Durvasa Muni. So Durvasa Muni has given the benediction that whatever she cooks will be very tasty and whoever eats it will have long life and everything good, free from disease and all this. So she cooks and they meet at Gupta Kund. And she also, after Krishna eats, then she takes Krishna's remnants. That's what it says. Which are bought. Want to say anything?
No. And after Radharani eats, then the gopis and the manjaris take her remnants.
So Krishna, before bathing, he milks the cows. Then he comes home. After awakening from his bed, he first goes to milk the cows, and then he comes home, takes bath. Or maybe he does. It doesn't say that. Maybe he takes bath twice. I don't know. Enjoys his meals in the company of his cowherd friends. So his cowherd friends are also waiting, right, outside in the courtyard.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So this is the brief description, right?
Right. Yeah. Many details to it.
Okay, that's good.
So Prabhuji, we went to Barsana a few years ago, right before COVID. So we went to Nandeshwar Mahadev, we went to Nandagram, and the Brajvasi who was showing us around, he actually showed us that place where Radharani cooks for Krishna. I'm sure you'll have seen that. So it was very surreal to be in that place actually. They call it Yashoda Baithak. I cannot remember the name of that place, but he showed us that every night or every morning, this is where Mother Yashoda engages Radharani to cook for Krishna. I was just sharing, it was very surreal to be there.
Yeah. We went to Nandagaon where we saw the place where Krishna stays with Nanda Baba and Yashoda. But where the cook, I don't know. It's like she comes to the home, right, to cook until she's stopped later on. Or maybe...
Yeah, he took us behind to there was a place, like a room behind the main temple, and he opened the door. He said, "You can go in, and this is the place where she comes to cook every day." Like that, yeah.
No, we didn't see that.
Next time. Yeah.
Next one. Anybody else wants to read?
I could read if no one else is there. I could read.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Purvahana Leela Smarana, 8:36 to 10:48 a.m. Nishtha. So one should remember the Purvahana, forenoon pastime, while chanting. Govinda Leela Amrita states, "I remember Krishna and his cowherd boyfriends, who in the forenoon follow the cows into the forest. Nanda Maharaj, Yashoda, and other Brajavasis follow Krishna and his friends. Being anxious to meet Radharani, Krishna leaves the cowherd boys and cows at Govardhan and comes to the banks of Radhakund. I also remember Radhika, who returns home from Nandagram after receiving Krishna's sidelong glance, indicating that imminent meeting place. Her mother-in-law, Jatila, orders her to worship Suryadev. With great eagerness, Radhika looks down the pathway by which her Sakhis will return with information about Krishna's whereabouts. That's interesting. So this is happening in 8:36 and 10:48 a.m. Okay. So how? So I have a question here. What is the relationship between that time period, the Leela that's going on between 8:36, 10:48 a.m. and the stage of Bhakti, Nishtha? How do we relate the two?
That's a good point. I don't know exactly
Yeah,
because
this is Bhakti Vinod Thakur. He's writing his commentaries. It says here, Bhakti Vinod Thakur quotes shlokas from Govind Lilamrita to depict the eightfold pastimes. A particular stage of bhakti corresponding to each pastime segment is mentioned in brackets. So, in his book, he might have in Bhajan Rahasya.
Yes, yeah. Okay. All right.
but it is not very evident from the what we are reading that.
Yeah, you cannot make the connection of just of reading the summary.
So it's also, is it like, so for example, I was thinking, they say go to Mangalarti, right? If you just go to Mangalarti every single day, you will develop faith, right? And you will. So is it something like that? That this is the time, right? Mangalarti ka time hai. So it's like you go there and then you develop Shraddha. And then when you go, when you move forward and do everything else, then like, for example, in the morning, early morning, we chant. So this is the first or the kind of like the fundamental thing that everybody has to do. This is, again, I'm not saying quoting anybody. I'm just speculating here whether that is a possibility. And I don't like to do that, but I was just wondering if that is the thing, that you start from Mangalarti or Japa, and then you go on to do other angas of the devotional service, and then you, as you progress, you attain to bhava and prema bhakti.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. So in this one, we've read in detail how Yashoda, she follows Krishna, and again and again she's coming back, right? And sometimes giving fruits to Krishna, sometimes cleaning the clothes, and she's she's not wanting to be separated from Krishna. So again and again she comes back. So very nice detail we can read later.
Brihad Bhagavatamrita.
Brihad Bhagavatamrita Viranya. Okay, so last one for today. Madhyan Leela Smaran, 10:48 a.m. to 3:36 p.m. I remember Radha Krishna enjoying each other's company at midday. They are decorated with different ecstatic symptoms such as Ashta Satvika and Vyabhachari bhavs. Their eyes show symptoms of opposition and then eagerness as they become unsteady in their loving affairs. They enjoy the jokes of Lalita and other Sakhis. Surrounded by the Sakhis, Radha Krishna relish various pastimes such as swinging, roaming in the forest, playing in the water, stealing Krishna's flute, drinking honey, enjoying amorous fairs, and worshipping the sun god. In this way, I meditate on Radha Krishna being served on all sides by their Sakhis. So Krishna is with the gopis mostly all the time. He is not separated from them. Even in this prahar, he leaves the cowherd boys and the cows and he goes to Radha Kund. And in this period as well, he's doing different pastimes with the Sakhis and the gopis, swinging, roaming in the forest, and playing in the water.
Sometimes we say that Govardhan Leela, because gopis were feeling separation during the day, and Gopas were feeling separation during the night. So in this Leela, he was there. But as we read they are also there during the day, right? With the gopis are there with Krishna.
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay, we'll read next ones tomorrow.
So what should we do next? Should we
Bhagavatam.
read Bhagavatam? Okay.
Yesterday you were saying we would read that portion where Uddhav met the gopis. I think you mentioned it. I don't know if that's what you intend to do today.
Yesterday we read, we finished that chapter.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the morning.
There was something there you said we could read.
Oh, he said that we'll read that same section from Bhagavatam.
Oh,
We were reading
yeah. That's
Right.
what I meant.
Okay, yeah, the same chapter. Okay, we can read that after this few verses. That's okay. Should we read that first or this?
We can read this one first.
Okay. I continuously offer my respectful, so let's see what's. This is Kardama Muni speaking to the Supreme Lord who has appeared before him. I continuously offer my respectful obeisances unto your lotus feet, of which it is worthy to take shelter. Because you shower all benedictions on the insignificant. So, offering obeisances to the Lord is one of the items of Krishna says Mam Namaskuru. It's the easiest thing to do, to offer obeisances to the Lord as soon as we see him. Raghunath Das Goswami would offer obeisances to Vaishnavas like many times, and then
2,000 times to Vaishnavas, 1,000 times to Krishna.
So, offering obeisances is, there's a lot of benefits of offering obeisances. There are many verses like that.
Last verse of Bhagavatam. Nam Sankirtanam Yasya Sarva Papa Pranashanam Pranamo Dukkha Tam Namami Harim.
So,
offer my respectful obeisances to the Lord Sri Hari, whose congregational chanting destroys all sinful reactions, and offering obeisances unto him relieves of all material suffering.
and Namaha, we said Namaha means offering obeisances.
Means not me, Krishna, it's you. Everything for you, nothing for me.
Yeah. Your desires above my desires. So basically, not me, not my desires, but your desires prevail. So like that. And that's the mood in which we should offer. It's like a surrendering mood. So humbling oneself and surrendering. Krishna, yes, I will do what you say. Obedient mood. To give all living entities detachment from fruitive activity by realizing you have expanded these material worlds by your own energy. So Krishna has created this material world to make us detached from the material world. Of course, there are two purposes, right? What is the first purpose is to give the condition.
To give the conditioned souls an opportunity to fulfill their desires, to enjoy separately. But then second one is to make them realize that, to make them detached and frustrated in their attempts so that they surrender to Krishna.
To reform the conditioned mentality. So, yes, Krishna says, okay, you want to enjoy, here the material world is, you enjoy. But then we find that it's not working out. He has set it up in such a way He set it up in such a way that it doesn't work because there is death at the end of it all. There is death and all the troubles. So then we can, those who are intelligent, they say, yes, it's not working out. Now let me surrender to Krishna. So that's the purpose of the material world actually.
So are the higher planetary systems also part of the material world?
Yeah, they are also.
Like Indralok, Chandralok, Brahmalok, Brahma Bhuvanan, that Brahma Bhuvanan Loka. So he says, na Punaravartina Arjuna. So that's also considered material creation, Brahmalok.
Yeah, it's the topmost planet in the material creation. Janalok, Maharlok, Tapalok, like that, all this. There are Swargalok and then there are higher, but they are also part of this. And that's nice verse you quoted, Abrahma Bhuvana Loka. What is that verse? Abrahma Bhuvana Loka.
Punaravartina Arjuna.
Mamupetya tu kante punarjanma na vidyate.
So Krishna is saying every place is place of misery. Even you go to Brahmalok, they have to die. I mean, less misery, but at the end of it, it's all finishes. So those things that have beginning and end, because as soul we are eternal, so we are meant to live in a place which is eternal, where we don't have to change our situation. What is Radharani's age? She is 14 years, 2 months, and 14 days. It's something like that, if I remember correctly. She is eternally youthful. So in the spiritual world, we don't age. We have our form, and then that form remains like that. And Krishna's is 15 years, 9 months. Yeah, 7.5 days. So nobody ages in the spiritual world. He is about 1 year, 7 months older to Radharani. Krishna. So, yeah, we hear everything like decays with time. So, it's not very enjoyable. Okay, so we are not meant to live in this place, Prabhupada says. We are trying to find happiness in a place which is a place of misery. So, how you can get? Everyone, therefore, whether he desires material enjoyment, liberation or transcendent loving service of the Lord, should engage himself, offering obeisances to the Supreme Lord. Because the Lord can award everyone his desired benediction. So one should offer obeisances to the Lord, even if you have material desires, if you desire material enjoyment, liberation. This is like a kama sarva kama verse. In Bhagavad Gita, the Lord affirms, Ye yathamam prapadyante. Anyone who desires to be a successful enjoyer in this material world is awarded that benediction by the Lord. Anyone who wants to be liberated from the entanglement of the material world is given liberation by the Lord. And anyone who desires to constantly engage in his service in full Krishna consciousness is awarded that benediction by the Lord. So Krishna is saying, okay, I will give you whatever you want. Whatever you are desiring, I will award you. What Prabhupada is saying here. Yeah, if you want material enjoyment, I'll give you material enjoyment. So intelligent people desire devotional service only, nothing else. Like Mama Janmani, let's say like that. So if you desire constantly, and if you have bhakti, then mukti is what you can say, mukti is a byproduct of bhakti. Correct. It
was that verse, right, from Vilva Mangal Thakur? That is, Bhakti is standing with folded arms at his doorstep, asking, what can I do for Mukti is standing at his doorstep. Mukti, what is that? Mukutanjali, something. Do you know that verse?
Mukulitanjali.
Yeah, do you remember that verse, Mataji? Full verse?
Bhaktis twice thiratara bhagavan. I don't know the full verse.
Devena phala divya kishora murti mukti swayam mukulitanjali sevatyasa. Dharma,
Dharma,
Artha, Kama. Yeah.
Pratiksha.
Pratiksha means
Waiting.
waiting. So Bhakti, then Dharma, Artha, Kama are waiting to serve. Also. So, yeah. So, main thing is bhakti. Without bhakti, we cannot go back to the spiritual world. That's the understanding. So, you should not try for liberation. Just try to engage in Krishna's service. And then bhakti. So, that's why Lord Chaitanya says like that. For material enjoyment, he has prescribed so many ritualistic sacrificial performances in the Vedas. And thus people may take advantage of those instructions and enjoy material life in higher planets or in a noble aristocratic family. But not everybody wants to go back home, back to Godhead. People want to enjoy. So there is a section of Vedas called, what is it called? Which has
Karam Kand.
Karma Kanda.
Karam Kand.
Karma Kanda. So where you can do all these sacrifices and get higher and higher standard of happiness. So these, and in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says what he says about this, the Karma Kanda sacrifices. Don't be attracted by the
The flowery words of the Vedas.
flowery language of the Vedas, which promote elevation to higher planets. Vedas are coming from Krishna only, but then he's saying that, oh, don't be attracted by this. Because that is for a certain class of people who are not ready to take up pure bhakti. So Vedas cater to everybody. So there is a section. And that is what Vyasadeva had described, all these things. And then he was dissatisfied. So, because he had not described pure devotion service, so Narad Muni came. So the author was also not satisfied. So nobody can be satisfied by material enjoyment, because the soul needs a different kind of food than what the body needs. So that's why there is always hankering and cannot be satisfied, and there is always anxiety, and so the soul needs the devotional service to be satisfied. But instead, if you give sense gratification, then the soul doesn't feel satisfaction. It's like giving, what do you say? If it's like giving petrol
Petrol to the man inside the car.
Yeah, to the driver. Well, car needs petrol or gas, we say here. But if you give petrol to the driver, he will not be happy. The food is different for the soul. The food is different. But in conditioned state, we are giving different food to the soul. So thinking that's the, and there may be some satisfaction that the soul may feel, yeah, but ultimately it will be dissatisfied, because everything will fall apart with the body. So these processes are mentioned in the Vedas, and one can take advantage of them. It is similar with those who want to be liberated from this material world. Unless one is disgusted with the enjoyment of this material world. So after enjoying, then he feels, oh, dharma, artha, kama, and then moksha. I am not getting what I want. It's not satisfying. So he cannot aspire for liberation. And that is why, as Prabhupada says, most people don't want to go back to Godhead because they're not disgusted with the enjoyment of this material world. So, of which the highest enjoyment is sex life, Prabhupada says. So nobody is disgusted with this enjoyment. So that's why they cannot, they don't want to go out of this cycle of birth and death. Liberation is for one who is disgusted with material enjoyment. Vedanta Sutra says, therefore, Athato Brahma Jigyasa, those who have given up the attempt to be happy in this material world can inquire about the absolute truth. Because otherwise your mind is in this world. So you can't think of that world if your mind is in this world. For those who want to know the absolute truth, the Vedanta Sutra is available. And sometimes our mind says, well, this is the reality. That's false. That's mythology. This world is the real thing. So, because we don't have experience. For those who want to know the absolute truth, the Vedanta Sutra is available, as in Srimad Bhagavatam, the actual explanation of Vedanta Sutra. So the Gaudiyas, they didn't have a commentary on Vedanta Sutra because they considered Vyasadev's Bhagavatam as the natural commentary. Janmadi yasya yataha noyadi taratashyartheshu abhignasvarar tene brahmaridayadi kavaya muyanti yat suraya. That whole section, all this beginning with Janmadi yasya yataha, which is the second sutra. So that's why the Ramanandis were not accepting then there is no bhashya of, they were not accepting this as a bona fide parampara. Until, who wrote the bhashya? I think
Govinda
Baladev
Bhashya.
Vidyabhushan.
Baldev Vidyabhushan.
But that was Bhagavad Gita, right?
Yeah, even I'm thinking that was Bhagavad Gita.
That was Bhagavad Gita, but they were saying on Vedanta Sutra you don't have a commentary. So let's see. We can read about that later on. And that's why they didn't accept. So Govinda Bhashya was written on Vedanta Sutra, as I understand. Maybe I'm wrong, but there was a big debate. They were not accepting. Okay, maybe somebody can find it. When one obtains real knowledge, he becomes theoretically one with the Supreme. And when he actually begins the service of Brahman or Krishna consciousness. Okay, I missed one. For those who want to know, my understanding. When one obtains real knowledge, he becomes theoretically one with the Supreme. And when he actually begins the service of Brahman or Krishna consciousness, he is not only liberated but situated in his spiritual life. Similarly, for those who want to lord it over material nature, there are so many departments of material enjoyment. Material knowledge and material science are available, and the Lord provides for persons who want to enjoy them. So Lord is so liberal that He is providing all the facility to enjoy for those who don't accept His authority. So, and also those who accept His authority, like demigods accept the authority of the Supreme Lord, but they want to enjoy and control. So the Lord has given them position in the material world. And for the demons also He has created the subterranean heavenly planets, which are also very opulent. We read about them. So how liberal Krishna is, that He is providing every fulfillment of all the desires of the jiva and created such a vast material world. He doesn't force. The conclusion is that one should worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead for any benediction. That's why we say devotional service is voluntary. Cannot be forced. You have to do because you want to do. You can force yourself, but nobody can force you to do devotional service. So anything you want, you should worship Supreme Personality of Godhead. The word Kama Varsham is very significant, for it indicates that He satisfies the desires of anyone who approaches Him. But one who sincerely loves Krishna and yet wants material enjoyment is in perplexity. So somebody who really wants Krishna, loves Krishna, but he wants also some material enjoyment. Krishna, being very kind towards him, gives him the opportunity to engage in transcendental loving service of the Lord, so he gradually forgets the hallucination. And Prabhupada says this, material enjoyment is hallucination. Like in psychiatry, hallucination is one of the, where you imagine things. So yeah, let's see what. Yeah, the Vedanta Sutra.
Yeah, there is a different commentary he has given on Bhagavad Gita. It's called Bhagavad Gita Bhushan. But yeah, Govind Bhashya is the commentary on the Vedanta Sutra.
And that's what he wrote sitting before the deities, right? What Radha Govinda deities. And in a very short time, he produced the commentary that everybody was surprised. So,
because it's the Lord who spoke. That's why it's Govind
Govinda
Bhashya,
Bhashya.
right?
Correct. Nice, yeah. Bhashya means Bhasha means the language spoken by the Lord Govind. Like Ramanujacharya also has. What is it called? Yesterday we were hearing. Like Shankaracharya Sharik Bhasya and Ramanujacharya Shri Bhasya or something. Okay. So if you desire Krishna and if you also want material enjoyment, then Krishna is so kind that he engages him in the loving service of the Lord and then forgets. He gives them a superior taste in devotional service, so they forget this. So that is real mercy when we get some taste for serving Krishna. That's the mercy of the Lord, and that taste will actually carry us back to the spiritual world because we lose taste for other things. In this material world, we keep transmigrating because we have taste for material enjoyment, so we keep transmigrating. And for material enjoyment, you need a material body. So you get a material body. But
I was reminded of one incident that Srila Prabhupada had narrated in one of his lectures, where he had written this book, that little small book, Easy Journey to Other Planets. And so he was in a bookstore, I think, and somebody approached him and said, "Oh, so in this book you've written about going to other planets. Is it possible?" And he said, "Of course. So you can do it. That's really interesting. So then can you come back?" So after going, can you come back? So Srila Prabhupada looked at him and asked, "Why would you want to come back?" He said, "Well, I want to come back. I just don't want to go to some unknown place and not come back." And he said, then he said, "No, you can't come back." And he's like, something like, "Yad gatvana nivartante, taddhama paramam mama." So it sounds scary to people that you can't come back. So it's very interesting that we are so attached, even though we see this world as a place of suffering and everything, it's something that we're familiar with and we don't want to leave our comfort zone. So I was just, thinking about like what is written here, and Srila Prabhupada has said that, right? Unless you are frustrated with the material world, you don't desire anything greater. So we are so comfortable. Somehow we are comfortable here that we feel okay. It's like man goes to the moon and comes back. It's something like that. But to go forever and not come back is a scary proposition for a lot of us because of our attachment.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yes. Yeah. Okay.
And Prabhupada mentioned why hippies, they took up Krishna consciousness. Because they were disgusted with enjoyment. They had tried to enjoy in many different ways. Drugs and illicit, and they were saying, "Oh, I'm not getting any happiness." They were willing to hear and try this route of Krishna consciousness. That was their qualification, Prabhupada said.
Yes.
But we can learn by just hearing and not have to experience going through, and then finally getting to the point of being disgusted. We can learn by what Srimad Bhagavatam is saying, what the purports are saying. So that's a more intelligent way of learning by hearing or seeing others.
Yeah, and what's happening around us, the media does a very good job of helping us realize this as well. So we have on one side we have our scriptures, which are constantly belaboring this point that this is Dukhalama Shashwatam in a summary. And you open up any like every day I open up Edge, Microsoft Edge, and I am just looking for one news that is that's pleasant, like that's really pleasant. But all there is this person killed this person cheated this, there was this accident. There is nothing in this, one can just look into those, and it should automatically lead to some sort of disgustment, or being averse, like being repelled by this material world. I wonder why that doesn't happen. But I guess like that, you also need the positive knowledge to know there is actually a much better place, a much better possibility than just having to rot here.
Yeah.
We need to have a higher taste, right? Otherwise, how will we know?
Right, yeah.
That's the Avaranatmika Shakti, right? The hog is eating stool and still is enjoying. He doesn't know there is a better thing. And they say suffering is part of life. So I will enjoy, and there's a little bit of suffering too. So I'm okay with the mix.
Yeah, good points to think about. Yes. Meditate on. Yeah. Something is giving you pain, but you don't want to give it up. That's how it is. What is that sugar cane juice you're drinking? The hot sugar cane juice, burning, but something is there that's keeping you like that from. Yeah, and
drops of honey.
Yeah, the thing is, in our family, we may have seen somebody die and suffer and suffering, and then we never think that I will be in this position one day. That's the biggest trick of Maya. So,
ahani bhutani gachanti yamalayam. Sheshaha stavaram ichanti kim ashcharya ata param, right? So Yudhishthir Maharaj, when the Yaksha asked what's the greatest miracle, he says this is the greatest miracle, that slowly, one by one, each one is going to Yama's home. But the rest of us, we want to be here forever, and what can be more astonishing than this?
Yes, that's a good verse. Yeah, it's like like before you're slaughtered, there is some grass given. That also example is given, and you think, yes, what is the problem? So you have a few years, one or two decades for some healthy life before it all falls apart. Especially those who are older, and anytime it can fall apart, but we have some little time, and then we think, yes, this time is nice. What is the problem? I should not. Sometimes people also say, "Arey, death is like, okay, you'll be sick for 1 or 2 years. Why you are spending all your 10, 15 years thinking about death?" And you're just because the problem is that's the transition. That's the transition. So if you prepared your consciousness for that transition, it will determine your next life, where you're going. So if you become attached to anything, like Dravida Prabhu said one time to me, why should we become attached to something that we have to ultimately give up in this world? Why should we be attached to anything in this world which we ultimately have to relinquish? And Prabhupada writes, how the man becomes attached to woman becomes, then man gets the body of a woman in next life, woman gets the body of a man. And this kind of continues, like Bharat Maharaj got the body of a deer. So why should we form uh, like attachments on the material platform? Of course, on the spiritual platform, it's different, but that will just perpetuate our repetition of birth and death. So he was saying like that why should we form attachments in this world, which will again, that's why sometimes they say when you die without the knowledge of your family members in some holy place, something like that, that's a very glorious death because you're not thinking about all your relatives and everybody, and because you're dying and you're thinking about what's going to happen to my family. Just like Bharat Maharaj was thinking, what's going to happen to the deer after I leave the world? Who will take care of the deer and things like that. So, yeah, that's that's the force. Yeah.
That's the verse, right? Yehi samsparsha jaboga dukha yonevate. Adi antavanta konte nateshwaramate buddha. Those who are intelligent, they don't delight in those pleasures that have beginning and an end.
Correct.
So they're looking for eternal happiness.
Yeah. So, yes. And you have to experience that, yeah, otherwise it's very difficult to give up these desires for material happiness. Yeah, I think Chaitanya Charan Prabhu was saying that the bhakti of those who are very advanced, it's sustained by their taste because they are Raganuga bhaktas. And the bhakti of sadhaka is sustained by intellectual understanding. But intellectual understanding is good, but it carries us only so much. Ultimately, the soul is hankering for pleasure. So, intellectually you understand this is not good. Like athakena prayuktoyam papam charati purusha. That guy knows that this is not good for me. Any person who is in knowledge, he knows it's not good for me. But he still engages in it because force is so strong. So the alcoholic also knows that alcohol is not good for him, smoking, but he cannot give up that because that force of desire is very strong and he doesn't have higher taste like that. Like many people eat meat, but when they eat prasadam, afterwards they say, yeah, this taste of non-veg is just not very obnoxious. I can't even stand the sight or smell of this. And people before, they were like, their mouths were watering at the sight of non-veg, but now they are averse to eating it because they got the taste of prasadam. So it's just like that. You get higher taste then.
Onion and garlic, Prabhuji. Previously we used to eat, and without that we were not making any dish at all. Now if we just smell it or just if somebody is making, we feel like, oh my God, it's so obnoxious. We feel like that.
Yeah, it's like Yamunacharya says, I'm getting newer and newer taste in bhakti. So whenever my mind thinks of sense gratification, I just turn away. He is actually experiencing that newer and newer taste in bhakti. So Yamunacharya yesterday, this is the same Yamunacharya, right? Is it the same Yamunacharya?
Yes, Prabhuji, it's the same Yamunacharya. That Srila Prabhupada often quotes this verse, right?
Correct.
So that reminds me also. Go ahead.
No, Prabhu, go ahead.
So that reminds me of the need for taste. Is like imperative. We always are hankering for a higher taste, but we don't know what is really the highest taste. So that verse in Bhagavad Gita comes in chapter 2, I believe. Vishya vinivartante niraharasya dehina rasavarjam rasopyasya param drishtva nivartate. So I think it's the translation is what because we are embodied, we maybe we may try to restrict ourselves forcibly from sense enjoyment, which in many traditions is considered to be the gold standard. But the problem is that inside the that taste for experiencing, sense objects, that is not lost. Hence, one, in order for one to actually be able to abandon those lower tastes, one has to experience a higher taste, which comes in Krishna consciousness, because of so many activities, because of the process itself is very blissful. I mean, there is austerity, agreed, but still, like, the kirtan, the prasadam, all that is that really amounts to that higher taste. Um Prasadam, of course, like immediately you experience it, and kirtan, it's relishable, even if it's not in the beginning. It slowly, like, softens the heart and makes one feel that, experience that bliss. So that can help people. And there are so many stories, like Prabhuji said, about someone taking prasadam and losing taste for meat. So I've seen people who, like, recently we had a Kirtan festival here in Indianapolis, and there were people who texted me and said that, thank you all for introducing us to Kirtan. It really had an impact on our lives. So that sort of, like, told me, oh, this process works. Yeah. So people do experience, like a higher taste, or like a pleasurable, they have a pleasurable experience and they want to try it again. So, yeah.
Yes, bro. Thank you. Yes. That's how many people join, right? I mean, they think that there is something there, and yeah, they start coming. So here also, many people are coming everywhere. So, so devotees have to expose them to, yeah, the kirtan and the prasadam and the knowledge. And for everybody, it's different. Like, somebody is attracted to, like, the prasadam, somebody likes the philosophy, somebody likes kirtan. Mostly people like kirtan and prasadam. So,
And especially they tell you are so joyful and so happy when we see the people dancing and singing and doing kirtan. So when I went to Hindu temple, Prabhuji, they tell us, so see, in ISKCON we come, so people are so joyful and they are so nice in communicating, and feel so happy.
yeah, it's susukham kartum aviyam. So, yeah, we'll read one more verse. Maitreya resumed, sincerely extolled in these words Lord Vishnu. So, sincerely praised, extolled means praised by Kardama Muni. Lord Vishnu, shining very beautifully on the shoulders of Garuda, replied with words as sweet as nectar. So, Krishna is glorified, he becomes pleased. Just like we are glorified, we become pleased. That tendency is coming from the Supreme Lord. His eyebrows moved gracefully as he looked at the sage with a smile full of affection. The word vachashamritena is significant. Whenever the Lord speaks, he speaks from the transcendental world. He does not speak from the material world. Since he is transcendental, his speech is also transcendental, as is his activity. Everything in relation to him is transcendental. Means it's coming from, like, the spiritual sky, Golokera Prem Dhan Harinams. Everything is talking, it's coming from a different realm. The word Amrita refers to one who does not meet with death. The words and activities of the Lord are deathless. Therefore, they are not manufactured of this material world. The sound of this material world and that of the spiritual world are completely different. The sound of the spiritual world is nectarian and eternal, whereas the sound of the material world is hackneyed and subject to end. The sound of the holy name, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, everlastingly increases the enthusiasm of the chanter. If one repeats monotonous material words, he will feel exhausted. But if he chants Hare Krishna 24 hours a day, he will never feel exhausted. He will feel encouraged to continue chanting more and more. When the Lord replied to the sage Kardama, the word Vachasamritena is specifically mentioned since he spoke from the transcendental world. He replied in transcendental words, and when he spoke, his eyebrows moved with great affection. When a devotee praises the glories of the Lord is very satisfied. And he bestows his transcendental benediction upon the devotee without reservation, because he is always causelessly merciful towards his devotee. Causelessly merciful. So, causeless mercy, we are talking about. But of course, the devotee is glorifying him. And Krishna is merciful to everybody. It's like, and when somebody engages in devotional service, glorification of the Lord, then he becomes very pleased.
He's like the sun. He's giving everybody light, but if somebody has closed their windows, then he can't receive the mercy.
Yeah. Okay. So then the mercy comes in a different way, in form of some hurricane or something which smashes the window open, and then the mercy will come. Like in some sort of, we say like misery also is mercy, the Lord. Correct?
Correct.
That's a very nice way of putting it. Yeah, we are so conditioned that we need it. Otherwise we would never realize, right? Unless we are smashed, the window gets smashed. Only then we're like, it's I think more, at least in my life. So, yeah, we are so comfortable. We would be so comfortable otherwise, unless we're jolted out of this.
Yeah, some jolts are required. Like from the comfort zone that we are in. But the jolt happens, then we forget also the jolt, and then until another jolt comes, right?
Correct.
So we have to remember
For
that.
the pure devote.
Huh? Yeah.
Go ahead, Prabhuji.
No, I was saying sometimes jolts have to be frequent, so, or to remind us, so comes that way.
I was thinking of Shikshashtakam verse, right? Yugaitam nimeshena chakshusha. So it's like, and also Nayanam, so basically for a pure devotee, one, like, the gopis saying, why did Brahma create the eyelid? Like, how foolish, right? But for us, it's like our misery. So for them, they're also miserable. They're in anxiety because of separation. And we are in misery because of our attachment. And even when we receive those jolts, our attachment does not allow us to immediately think, okay, what is the lesson in this and how should I? We are still rebuilding. If the window breaks, then we buy a new window, right? So we are so conditioned. It's like Jarasandha. 17 times he comes. He never gave up, and we are like that. We never give up.
Yeah, that's the problem. Yeah, it's a patchwork. We do some patchwork, repair it, and then say, okay, now let's move on. So you repair it and then say, yes, it's worth. Then until again it's smashed. So Prabhupada says modern civilization is a patchwork of, what is that? Patchwork of activities.
To hide the perpetual miseries of life.
To forget the perpetual miseries of material existence. We have it in we have some nice. Let me
I'm pasting.
Yeah. Some nice statements from Prabhupada which are we have put in that you pasted, and it's in which tab it is in?
SB quotes.
So in Ishok. So like Srila Prabhupada told Bhakti Charu Maharaj, Just offer this life to Krishna. For many, many lifetimes you've been trying to enjoy, but you can see that you are still not satisfied. You just offer this life to Krishna and see what happens. Even if nothing happens, what is the loss? After all, it is just one life out of so many. Then, this is another nice quote. Don't worry about what will happen to the world. Prabhupada, I think I've explained this. Instead of contemplating what will happen to this world, you have got a short duration of life, say 50, 60 years. Prabhupada is saying 50, 60 years. That means we are done. You chant Hare Krishna and go back home, back to Godhead. Don't consider what will happen to this world. The nature will take care of it. You don't puzzle your brain with these thoughts. You utilize whatever time you have got in your possession. Go back home, back to Godhead. You cannot check it. Best thing is that you mold your life and go back to home, back to Godhead. Oil in your own machine. Means save yourself. Don't worry about whether the other person is what is going to happen. And I mean, if they are not, you can give Krishna consciousness, but people will not, everybody is not going to accept. Otherwise, material world will close. But everybody is not going to accept. So instead of thinking what will happen, because people will go on with their rascal civilization, natural consequence will be there. You better take advantage of whatever time you have got and become fully Krishna conscious and go back to home. Means you become serious, and the serious student will study. No matter other students in the class are studying or not, it doesn't matter. The serious, and we are thinking, you are crazy, you are losing the opportunity of life. Therefore, I wrote that. Who is crazy? Yeah, it's a nice quote. So this is a transcendental chanting. This is also nice. While one enjoys sense gratification, it may be that there is some feeling of happiness. But actually that so-called feeling of happiness is the ultimate enemy. So when we engage in sense gratification, it seems very nice. But actually it is prolonging our material existence. And that's why it is the ultimate enemy of the sense enjoyer. And it keeps us bereft of bhakti. Spiritual realization and sense gratification go ill together. This is where he was choked up. In Atlanta, he was choked up. Maya is so strong that unless one is determined not to fall victim, even the Supreme Personality of Godhead cannot give protection. This is in the pastime of
Kal Krishnadas.
He writes this statement. So one has to be very determined. Then even little service, whatever service one does for Krishna, Krishna never forgets. Krishna will always remember that service, however insignificant. Even if he comes to the temple and he turns one screw for Krishna, Krishna will never forget.
That's what we did in Mayapur. We pushed one nail down the TOVP temple. Screw.
Yeah.
So that's how Jayapataka Maharaj entered Krishna consciousness, right? Jayananda. He actually was building this ratha, and he just casually was passing by. So, and he was like curious to see what he was doing, and he said, "Oh, you want to help me?" And then he gave some nails and a hammer and said, "Just do this," right? And lo and behold, that's how he and now we see what a stalwart devotee he is.
This is also nice. Wherever you may go to perform your devotions, you should always be very careful to observe very strictly the rules and regulations. Rise early, attend Mangalarti and class. So whether you go here, there, you go to India, you are traveling, Prabhupada says, yes, you should always rise early, chant 16 rounds, attend Mangalarti. Of course, Mangalarti may be difficult, but at least morning we can do our sadhana. Whether we are in New York or whether we are in Seattle, wherever. Yeah. This is the one. Modern civilization is in purport that you also pasted here. Modern civilization is a patchwork of activities meant to cover the perpetual miseries of material existence. So you have to forget or you have to cover it up. So you invent so many other duties. So you don't have to think about birth, death, old age and disease. You become so busy in your life with so many other things that you forget to solve the problems of life. Actually, Okay, we can read that. It's 10:47, right, in the Bhagavatam.
Yes.
So this is nice. So we should write all the purports, and you can read also again and again. There's some things that one is also there, unless one is pessimistic of the miseries of material existence.
Yeah, it should be there.
Yeah. You nicely put everything in this.
It's in row number 45. Unless we have a pessimistic view of material life, of birth, death, old age, and disease, there is no impetus for making advancement in spiritual life.
So pessimism has required, yes, that's what Prabhupada was saying, that unless you are disgusted with this, there is no impetus for our making advancement in spiritual life, because we'll be involved here only in trying to make a nice situation. So then, of course, we have to survive in this world. So whatever we have to do to live in this world, just bare minimum, and then the time should be saved for bhakti. So unless you do use your work to serve Krishna, that's okay. So 10:47, the Song of B. Maybe we'll do 46 and 47. Okay, so this is not Prabhupada's purports in this chapter. But disciples of Prabhupada, they finished the Bhagavatam. Prabhupada departed after 14th chapter of the 10th canto, where the cowherd boy's pastime is there, Brahma Vimohan Leela. Okay, so somebody want to read? Summary.
I can read, Prabhuji.
Okay.
Chapter 46, Uddhava visits Vrindavan. This chapter describes how Sri Krishna sent Uddhava to Vraja to relieve the distress of Nanda, Yashoda, and the young gopis. One day, Lord Krishna asked his intimate friend Uddhava to take news of him to Vraja and thus relieve his parents and the gopis of their misery caused by their separation from him. Riding on a chariot, Uddhava reached Vraja at sunset. He saw the cows returning home to the cowherd village and the calves jumping here and there as their mothers followed slowly behind, weighed down by their heavy milk bags. The cowherd men and women were chanting the glories of Krishna and Balram, and the village was attractively decorated with burning incense and rows of lamps. All this presented a scene of exceptional transcendental beauty. Nanda Maharaj welcomed Uddhava warmly into his home. The cowherd king then worshipped him as non-different from Lord Vasudev, fed him nicely, seated him comfortably upon a bed, and then inquired from him about the welfare of Vasudev and his sons Krishna and Balram. Nanda asked, "Does Krishna still remember his friends, the village of Gokula and Govardhan Hill? He protected us from a forest fire and wind and rain, and many other disasters. By remembering his pastimes again and again, we are relieved of all karmic entanglement. And when we see the places marked by his lotus feet, our minds become fully absorbed in thought of him. Garga Muni told me that Krishna and Balram have both descended directly from the spiritual world. Just see how they have so easily dispatched Kamsa, the wrestlers, the elephant, Kuvalayapida, and many other demons." As Nanda remembered Krishna's pastime, his throat choked up with tears and he could speak no further. Meanwhile, as Mother Yashoda heard her husband speak of Krishna, the intense love she felt for her son caused a flood of milk to pour from her breast and a torrent of tears from her eyes. Seeing the super excellent affection Nanda and Yashoda had for Krishna, Uddhava commented, You two are indeed most glorious. One who has attained pure love for the supreme absolute truth in his human-like form has nothing further to accomplish. Krishna and Balram are present in the hearts of all living beings, just as fire lies dormant within wood. These two lords see all equally, having no particular friends or enemies. Free from egoism and possessiveness, they have no father, mother, wife, or children, are never subject to birth, and have no material body, only to enjoy spiritual happiness and deliver their saintly devotees do they appear by their own sweet will among various species of life, both high and low. Lord Krishna is not merely the son of you, O Nanda and Yashoda, but the son of all persons, as well as their mother and father. In fact, he is everyone's dearest relation, inasmuch as nothing that is seen or heard in the past, present, or future among the moving or non-moving is independent of him. Nanda Maharaj and Uddhava passed the night talking about Krishna in this way. Then the cowherd women performed their morning worship and began churning butter, singing the glories of Sri Krishna as they busily pulled the churning ropes. The sound of churning and singing reverberated into the sky, cleansing the world of all inauspiciousness. When the sun rose, the gopis saw Uddhava's chariot at the edge of the cowherd village, and they thought that Akrura might have returned. But just then, Uddhava finished his morning duties and presented himself before them. So this is exactly verbatim taken from Krishna book, as I recall. That's from Srila Prabhupada. And what really struck me here is that Krishna has no really, he doesn't have to descend to this world, the material world, but in his loving interaction, by his loving interaction with Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda, he is telling, and here Srila Prabhupada writes that we can have the same relationship. So the 5 types of bhakti that we can perform by having a loving relationship with the Lord, that's just so wonderful. That is not only meant for a select few. It's meant for everyone. And we can have that relationship right here, right now. And Krishna will reciprocate. So that was very reassuring when I was reading this.
Nice. Okay, should we read this, or should we hear that there is a class also by, or should we continue reading? What is the thing? Should we read all the verses? Because what do you say?
Yeah, whatever you like, Prabhu. We will continue reading this over the days.
This chapter?
Mhm.
Okay, so we can read then a few verses.
I can read.
Yeah.
Shukdev Goswami said, the supremely intelligent Uddhav was the best counselor of the Vrishni dynasty, a beloved friend of Lord Sri Krishna and a direct disciple of Brihaspati. Purport. The Acharyas give various reasons why Lord Krishna sent Uddhav to Vrindavan. The Lord had promised the residents of Vrindavan, I shall return. Also in the previous chapter, Lord Krishna promised Nanda Maharaj, Drashtum Ishyamaha. We will come back to see you and Mother Yashoda. At the same time, the Lord could not break his promise to Sri Vasudeva and Mother Devaki to finally spend some time with them after they had suffered for so many years. Therefore, the Lord decided to send his intimate representative to Vrindavan in his place. The question may be asked, why did Krishna not invite Nanda and Yashoda to visit him in Mathura? According to Srila Jiva Goswami, for the Lord to have exchanged loving feelings with Nanda and Yashoda in the same place and at the same time that he was exchanging them with Vasudeva and Devaki would have created an awkward situation in the Lord's pastimes. Thus Krishna did not invite Nanda and Yashoda to stay with him in Mathura. The residents of Vrindavan had their own way of understanding Krishna, and their feelings could not have been appropriately expressed on a regular basis in the kingly atmosphere of Mathura. Sri Uddhav is described in this verse as Buddhi Sattamaha, the most intelligent, and thus he could expertly pacify the residents of Vrindavan who were feeling such intense separation from Lord Krishna. Then upon his return to Mathura, Uddhav would describe to all the members of the Vrishni dynasty the extraordinary, pure love he had seen in Vrindavan. Indeed, the love the cowherd men and gopis felt for Krishna was far beyond anything the Lord's other devotees had ever experienced. And by hearing about that love, all the Lord's devotees would increase their faith and devotion. As stated in the third canto by the Lord himself, No davo anva api man yunaha. Uddhav is not even slightly different from me. Resembling Krishna so much, Uddhav was a perfect person to carry out the Lord's mission in Vrindavan. In fact, Sri Harivamsha states that Uddhav is the son of Vasudev's brother, Devabhag. Uddhavo Devabhagasya Mahabhaga Suto Abhavat. In other words, he is the cousin brother of Sri Krishna's. Should I continue?
If you want to, any comments on this verse or anything?
I mean, there are many reasons why he sent Uddhav. One reason is mentioned here because he promised them that he would come. Lord could not break his promise. I mean, he promised Vasudeva and Devaki that he would spend time with them. But also you said about Jarasandha attacking another. So Krishna wanted to stay away from Vrindavan so that they are not disturbed.
Yeah, in the Krishna book, Prabhupada said.
Yeah, and then Jiva Goswami says that they couldn't come to Mathura because their Mathura's bhav is more of Aishwarya, and they are in the Madhurya ras, so they can exhibit their bhav nicely in Vrindavan only, so they didn't come. And it's very close by also, right? But Krishna came, right? It's not mentioned in Bhagavatam, but in other texts it's mentioned Krishna comes later.
Like many years later, or what is this?
No. Yeah, but in Bhagavatam there is that union in Kurukshetra, right? When Krishna is with Arjuna and all the Vrajvasis have come there to meet him. So it seems, I don't know if it's like they never saw Krishna in between and that was the time when they met again. That's the Rath Yatra. Like they're pulling the chariot of Krishna to come to Vrindavan.
And what happened? They were pulling and then they took Krishna to Vrindavan? Or?
I think it's mentioned in some of the scriptures. Yeah, Krishna comes to Vrindavan.
It's at that time only, when the solar eclipse was there in Kurukshetra, and that's when they pulled the chariot. So is that the time when Krishna goes to, or some other time?
That's also there, but others are also there. I mean, in the Shivram Maharaj book we read, Krishna comes. So, don't know how many times he comes. But also, Rupa Goswami says that Radharani gives up her body and all the gopis, then they reappear as queens in Dwarka. So it's very confusing. Radharani is not there in Vrindavan, but then they say in Kurukshetra time, Radharani is there.
Becomes Satyabhama, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. The Supreme Lord Hari, who relieves the distress of all who surrender to him, once took the hand of his fully devoted dearmost friend Uddhav and addressed him as follows. Lord Krishna said, Dear gentle Uddhav, go to Vraj and give pleasure to our parents. and also relieve the gopis suffering in separation from me by giving them my message. The minds of those gopis are always absorbed in me, and their very lives are ever devoted to me. For my sake, they have abandoned everything related to their bodies, renouncing ordinary happiness in this life, as well as religious duties necessary for such happiness in the next life. I alone am their dear most beloved, and indeed their very self. I personally sustain such devotees, who for my sake give up all worldly duties. Here the Lord explains why he wants to send a special message to the gopis. According to the Vaishnavacharyas, the word Dehi Kaha, related to the body, refers to husbands, children, homes, and so on. The gopis loved Krishna so intensely that they could think of nothing else. Since Sri Krishna maintains ordinary devotees engaged in sadhana bhakti, devotional service in practice, he will certainly maintain the gopis, his most exalted devotees. Yeah, Krishna is also remembering the gopis, and he's suffering also in Mathura. And gopis are also suffering in separation. My dear Uddhav, for those women of Gokul, I am the most cherished object of love. Thus, when they remember me, who am so far away, they are overwhelmed by the anxiety of separation. Whatever is dear to us becomes an object of our possessiveness. Ultimately, the most dear object is our very soul, or ourself. Thus, things in a favorable relationship to ourself also becomes dear to us, and we try to possess them. According to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti, among countless millions of such dear things, Sri Krishna is the most dear of all, even dearer than one's own self. The gopis had realized this fact, and thus they were stunned in separation from the Lord because of their intense love for him. Although they would have given up their lives, they were kept alive by the Lord's transcendental potency. So everybody loves themselves like their own soul. But because the soul is part and parcel of Krishna, they love Krishna the most. That love is there in everybody. Nitya Siddha Krishna Prem Sadhya Kavanani. And gopis had realized that. And Krishna also tells them that I have separated myself with you to increase your love for me. Because when a man is away from the woman thinks of her beloved more when he's separated. So that's what he'll write in the letter. Simply because I have promised to return to them, my fully devoted cowherd girlfriends struggle to maintain their lives somehow or other. According to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti, although the gopis of Vrindavan were apparently married, their husbands actually had no contact whatsoever with their supremely attractive qualities of form, taste, fragrance, sound, touch, and so on. Rather, their husbands merely presumed these are our wives. In other words, by Lord Krishna's spiritual potency, the gopis existed entirely for his pleasure, and Krishna loved them in the mood of a paramour. In fact, the gopis were manifestations of Krishna's internal nature, his supreme pleasure potency, and on the spiritual platform they attracted the Lord by their pure love. Nanda Maharaj and Mother Yashoda, Lord Krishna's parents in Vrindavan, had also attained a most exalted state of love for Krishna, and they too could barely maintain their lives in his absence. Thus, Uddhav should also give special attention to them. So the gopis, they have this parakya bhav for Krishna, and the parakya bhav is higher than swakya. Means if Krishna is married, the love within the marriage, that higher than that is parakya. If the gopis who are married to some other gopas and they have love for Krishna, so in the spiritual world that's the highest, and that's the situation Krishna has created. Their husbands, I think, also some expansions of Krishna only, right? Like Abhimanyu is the husband of Radharani, is also expansion of Krishna. But that scene is created to invoke more excitement, and they have to hide and meet, and all the obstacles are there in their path for meeting, like Jatila and Kutila. That adds more excitement and fun. Correct?
Correct. So,
And Srila Prabhupada says, often in his lectures that we should also live in this material world with the Parakiya Bhav, because we should do all our duties, but we should always be thinking of Krishna.
Yeah, that's the letter Rupa, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave to Rupa and Sanatan Goswami, right, when they were writing that we want to leave this Nawab Hussain Shah's job and we want to come to you. And he wrote that just like a housewife is nicely engaged in her household duties, and she seriously engaged in her duties so that nobody suspects that she's actually thinking of her paramour in her mind. So, like that, we should. Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu ma manushmara yuddha cha. Krishna says to Arjuna, you fight, but you remember me. So, do your duties, but remember Krishna. We are doing it for Krishna. He's our beloved. Shukdev Goswami said, thus addressed, O king, Uddhav respectfully accepted his master's message, mounted his chariot, and set off for Nanda Gokul. The fortunate Uddhav reached Nanda Maharaj's pastures just as the sun was setting. And since the returning cows and other animals were raising dust with their hooves, his chariot passed unnoticed. So he came in the evening time when the cows were returning from the pastures. And the dust was rising, so nobody could see his chariot.
but the last verse says that it was seen, he was seeing, but actually it was not.
Sorry?
The last verse, this chapter it says, right, which verse is that it was actually just a scene that was created by
Yeah, it's coming up. It's next one.
Okay.
So
was it actually there, or it was the dust?
That one. Yeah, that 9 to 13, that verse. Yeah, Gokul resounded on all sides with the sounds of bulls in rut fighting with one another for fertile cows, with the mooing of cows, burdened by their udders, chasing after their calves, with the noise of milking and of the white calves jumping here and there, with the loud reverberation of flute playing, and with the singing of the all auspicious deeds of Krishna and Balram, by the cowherd men and women who made the village resplendent with their wonderfully ornamented attire. The cowherds' home in Gokul appeared most charming, with their abundant paraphernalia for worship of the sacrificial fire, the sun, unexpected guests, the cows, the brahmanas, the forefathers, and the demigods. On all sides lay the flowering forest, echoing with flocks of birds and swarms of bees, and beautified by its lakes, crowded with swans, kardama ducks, and bowers of lotuses. So purport says, although Gokul was merged in grief because of separation from Lord Krishna, the Lord expanded his internal potency to cover the particular manifestation of Vraj and allow Uddhav to see the normal bustle and joy of Vraj at sunset. So Yogamaya created the scene of how Vrindavan was when Krishna and Balram were there in a very joyful state.
So actually, it was not happening, right? It was just presented.
Yeah, because everybody was merged in grief because separation. As soon as Uddhav arrived at Nanda Maharaj's home, Nanda came forward to meet him. The cowherd king embraced him in great happiness and worshipped him as non-different from Lord Vasudeva. Uddhav looked just like Nanda's son Krishna and gave pleasure to anyone who saw him. Thus, although Nanda was absorbed in thoughts of separation from Krishna, when he saw Uddhav coming towards his house, he became aware of external events and eagerly went out to embrace his exalted visitor. He looked just like Krishna, and that's Swarup Siddhi. After Uddhav had eaten first-class food, being seated comfortably on a bed, and been relieved of his fatigue by a foot massage and other means, Nanda inquired from him as follows: Sri Juva Goswami mentions that Nanda had a servant massage Uddhav's feet since Uddhav was Nanda's nephew. Yeah, taking care of his guest. Nanda Maharaj said, "My dear most fortunate one, does the son of Sura fare well now that he is free and has rejoined his children and other relatives?" He is asking about Vasudev. Fortunately, because of his own sins, the sinful Kansa has been killed along with all his brothers. He always hated the saintly and righteous Yadus. Nice thing Kansa died. He hated his brothers, relatives. Does Krishna remember us? Does he remember his mother and his father and well-wishers? Does he remember the cowherds and their village of Raj, of which he is the master? Does he remember the cows, Vrindavan forest and Govardhan hill? Will Govinda return even once to see his family? If he ever does, we may then glance upon his beautiful face, with its beautiful eyes, nose and smile. Now that Krishna had become a prince in the great city of Mathura, Nanda had lost hope that he would come back to live in the simple cowherd village of Vrindavan. But he hoped against hope that Krishna would come back at least once to visit the simple cowherd folk who had raised him from birth. He had lost hope. We were saved from the forest fire, the wind, rain, the bull and serpent demons, from all such insurmountable deadly dangers by that very great soul, Krishna. As we remember the wonderful deeds Krishna performed, his playful sidelong glances, his smiles and his words, O Uddhav, we forget all our material engagements. When we see the places where Mukunda enjoyed his sporting pastimes, the rivers, hills and forests he decorated with his feet, our minds become totally absorbed in him. Everything in Vrindavan reminds them of Krishna. Rivers, hills, forests. They always absorbed in remembering Krishna. That's the highest stage, devotion. In my opinion, Krishna and Balram must be two exalted demigods who have come to this planet to fulfill some great mission of the demigods. Such was foretold by Garga Rishi. Garga Muni said he is as good as Narayan. After all, Krishna and Balram killed Kansa, who was as strong as 10,000 elephants, as well as the wrestlers Chanur and Mushtaq and the elephant Kuvalapida. They killed them all sportingly, as easily as a lion disposes of small animals. Here Nanda means to say, not only did Garga Muni declare that these boys are divine, but just see what they have done. Everyone is talking about it. Yeah, they exhibited such miraculous feats. With the ease of a royal elephant breaking a stick, Krishna broke a powerful giant bow, 3 talas long. He also held a mountain aloft for 7 days with just one hand. According to Acharya Vishwanath, a tala, palm tree, is a measurement of about 60 hastas, 90 feet. Thus, the great bow Krishna broke was 270 feet long. And he's also talking about lifting Govardhan for 7 days. Who can do that? So Krishna must be someone exceptional, like a demigod, he's thinking. Here in Vrindavan, Krishna and Balram easily destroyed demons like Pralamba, Dhenuka, Arishta, Trinavart and Baka, who had themselves defeated both demigods and other demons. Shukdev Goswami said, thus intensely remembering Krishna again and again, Nanda Maharaj, his mind completely attached to the Lord, felt extreme anxiety and fell silent, overcome by the strength of his love. Remembering all pastimes of Krishna, he's suffering anxiety. As Mother Yashoda heard the descriptions of her son's activities, she poured out her tears and milk flowed from her breast out of love. From the very day that Krishna had left for Mathura, Mother Yashoda, though counseled and counseled by hundreds of men and women, could see nothing but the face of her son. She kept her eyes closed to everyone else and cried constantly. Thus she could not recognize Uddhav, treat him with parental affection, ask him any questions or give him any message for her son. She was simply overwhelmed with love for Krishna. So while Nanda Maharaj is asking all these questions and talking with Uddhav, Yashoda is just crying. She has her eyes closed. She doesn't want to see anything else. And she's quiet. Uddhav then joyfully addressed Nanda Maharaj, having clearly seen the supreme loving attraction he and Yashoda felt for Krishna, the supreme personality of Godhead. If Uddhav had seen Nanda and Yashoda actually suffering, he would not have reacted with joy. But in fact, all emotions on the spiritual platform are transcendental bliss. The so-called anguish of the pure devotees is another form of loving ecstasy. This was clearly seen by Uddhav, and thus he spoke as follows. So Uddhav is not thinking that, he's seeing them as in ecstasy and experiencing the highest transcendental bliss, which is true. The transcendental emotions, the crying is the highest bliss. Sri Uddhav said, "O respectful Nanda, certainly you and Mother Yashoda are the most praiseworthy persons in the entire world, since you have developed such a loving attitude towards Lord Narayan, the spiritual master of all living beings." Understanding Nanda's mood as expressed by his statement, "Manye Krishnam cha Raman cha praptva iha surottamaha," I think Krishna and Ram must be two exalted demigods. Uddhav here referred to Krishna as Lord Narayan. So he's saying that it's great that you have developed this loving attitude for the Supreme Lord. And they don't think that Krishna is a supreme god, but as Uddhav is addressing Krishna as Narayan.
Okay, so it's from 30th onwards. We can continue. It's almost 9 o'clock. So I guess. Is it okay?
Yes.
30. So, okay. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank
Hare
you.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Krishna Krishna.